What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Flicking with Skip. Sharp-eyed observers will notice that this is actually being done on a Sunday, so this is technically a Secret Sundays episode. However, Flicking with Skip, I got kind of caught up I hadn't watched all the Nolan movies. So I decided to use the time that I would normally use for Friday night uh, to watch the Nolan movies and get the notes down so that I would have them so that at least I could talk thoroughly about all the movies. This is the second Sunday. I'm sorry, this is the second getting to Nolan you episode. So welcome to it. I am Skip Marazi, your host and friend here on a behind-the-scenes podcast for Coxsnet Space. So thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight we are going to be talking about four great films, great-ish films, in my opinion, and that are by Christopher Nolan. It starts with Tenet, which sometimes as I was setting this up, especially the second episode, just coming out of the last episode, and just thinking about how good Insomnia was, it made it to the top of the list. And I think in some ways, I do think maybe the Insomnia should be put up over Tenet. However, Tenet itself is Christopher Nolan's creation, where Insomnia is not. It's a remake of another film. So I have to give that to Tenet. It is strictly written by Christopher Nolan. Jonathan did not participate in that, but so it's it is his movie. In my opinion, it suffers for that because I think that Jonathan and Christopher together make a great team. We'll see that really a lot actually in these next couple of films. But what when we're gonna be looking at this week. But yeah, so I think Christopher Nolan, he has a great big vision. He's fantastic with his big vision, and he can't, and so he doesn't do character work really well. And you can see when Jonathan comes on, one of the things that he does is really great character work. That is so movies like Interstellar, which is one of the ones that is going to be closing out tonight's episode, um, is a Christopher and Jonathan Nolan film, and it has all the bigness that you want of Christopher Nolan, and then it has really intricate relationships that Jonathan Nolan is really good at. The team up also is there in the Batman movies. You see Jonathan Nolan helping out in some of the Batman movies, and then you also see it in Memento, of course, because Memento is based on a short story. And in Memento, it's all about relationships, who's connected to each other and who knows what. Um, yeah, we're going to be looking at Tenet, or we're going to be looking at two of the Batmans that you guys, that I'm sure you guys have been waiting for, because these are the most prominent Christopher Nolan movies. And so it goes in the ranking in case you're wondering if you want to skip around. Uh, Tenet, Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and Interstellar. Now it was tough. While I was watching these movies, there's a lot of switching around based off a number of factors. One of the reasons that Interstellar takes the top of this list, hands down, is because of its soundtrack. There are shots that would be 100% not worth watching if they weren't handled with the score that I believe is Hans Zimmer, because he works a lot with Christopher Nolan. I might be incorrect with that. I'll correct in the edit so you guys get the correct information. Um, but yeah, no, it sounds like his work, and they work fantastically together. Like Zimmer's vision of bigness translates very well to mindscapes and to large sci-fi. So I'm excited to get to talk about that. But we're going to start with here is Tenet 2020 7.3. Personal story about Tenet is, of course, we were going through COVID at the time that it came out. And so in the midst of all that, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go get to watch a Christopher Nolan movie in the midst of all this madness. So and the theaters won't be packed. It won't be crazy. Um, that I'll get to like really enjoy the film. So I did get to see it on the big screen, which is a rare treat for Nolan films. Generally, I just get to see them in good surroundings with a good sound system, a large enough screen. But Tenet was one that I did see in theaters when it came out. So 2020 is when it came out at an IMDb score of 7.3. And this movie, like I said, is a Christopher Nolan movie. He wrote it. The only thing that's kind of having influence, of course, is Emma. Um, I'm sorry, ma'am, I've forgotten your last name, but his wife, who produces a lot of his films. And by a lot of his films, I mean all of his films in conjunction with other people like himself and other people who join the team. So that's the influence that is on this film. So it immediately starts with the bigness, right? Like immediate action. This is Nolan's take on basically like a James Bond scenario. Like he's writing Bond in the way that he envisions it. We know that Nolan's favorite things are bigness, time and space, and how does it work, grieving, and how do we process that. These are the things that he looks at. And so for this one, it starts with this bigness and then cuts into the action. What you see a lot in Christopher Nolan's work, especially later, the more that you get into his career, is that he realized that action sells. That you can get people to watch your movie and follow its idea if it moves fast enough, which um, is true. So of course I wouldn't argue against that. It's also to the detriment of a lot of filmmakers who could make better films, but have to toe to that. I like the approach that he goes, especially again with Jonathan, when there's like these humans at the center of it, and they experience some emotions. So the movies don't come across as like fast food, where it's like an empty story, empty caloric story intake. Uh, those words, I don't know if they've ever been said together. I didn't mean to like say something novel, and hopefully it's not. Comment below if you've heard that idea. But like the idea that we crave stories, and that's why we like communicate with each other. Like we want the hot gossip, we want to figure out what's happening in our world. That's why we talk about the weather. That's why we talk about, what we're doing this weekend. All those sorts of things is because we're just, we're prone to story collect. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like there's some stories that we get sometimes that are all action, and so we come away and it was like, it's like eating fast food. Like it's gonna pass quickly from you, and you're still gonna feel hungry afterwards for that story intake. Um, no beef on it. I mean, audiences love this shit, so and it sells really well. So why wouldn't you give them that? But then, it's just my opinion that we should, as writers and creators, yes, be giving them the tastiest food that we can get. It's the flashiest, and also make sure that we take care of them, their story, nutrition, as well. Take that for what you will. I don't it's if it sounds like a challenge, it kind of is, but at the same time, like I just I just want I want to watch movies that I feel uh, it means something, it gives me something to think about and mull over is all. And it doesn't have to be totally cerebral, you know what I mean? But like questions like Nolan puts in these Batman movies coming up, for instance, about like what it means to be a hero and who are the good guys and who are the bad guys and what step is one step too far. Those are all really really good questions, and to put them into action movies is fantastic. So here's Tenet, and again, one of the reasons that it falls in the middle is because Tenet is Christopher Nolan's creation, and it's a really fun movie. I mean, so people who like they just want to watch something that's fun and fast, this is the movie that you get to watch. It's out of the gate action. There's a symphony warming up. And then out of nowhere, the conductor gets shot, like basically as he's about to start the symphony, because he taps his baton and everybody like gets ready, and then these terrorists come in and start firing everywhere, right? All this bullet happens. There's, it seems like this highly organized operation is going on. These people are putting out patches. They look like cops. And then they put on these gas masks and they start gassing everybody. And it's the whole like auditorium and everyone who hasn't been shot starts falling asleep. And just wild. So what you find out is we meet this guy who it's fortunate. It was like great casting. I say fortunate, but like it seems that it's deliberate. Um, and it's a good choice to have made. So Nolan decides to cast this black actor who I've seen him around a bunch. Guys, I'm gonna put his name up on the screen. I'll show you his face too, but I forgot to look it up, and uh, he needs to get credit because he does some really fantastic work in this movie. Um, but he's like the reason it's good that he cast him and he is a black actor is because there's like moments where they're all like suited up and everything, and so it would be hard to tell him apart from all the different white actors. So just the fact that he's like he like clearly stands out. It's like Jared Leto in Fight Club, just he has that bleach blonde hair. So if they did something like that with a white actor, it'd be the same thing, but he needs to be like super distinct. Or if, for instance, they cast Carrot Top, Carrot Top would be a very distinct face and feature. Um, Totally out of line casting for the character, but just, it's good that he has one very distinct feature because people like me who are a little bit slow sometimes in following who's who on the screen, if I'm glad that he went that way because I guess he knows that some of his audience members um, passively watch his movies or something. Um, anyway, so this guy comes in and he comes in to like let him know that they're running this whole operation to as a distraction to like grab this like nuclear code basically or something like that. Um, the This is why this movie ranks so far down, and also like I think it should maybe be in the lower bracket, because it doesn't hold up well. Like what is happening? Like you can understand the words that they're saying, but like you don't understand the meaning of it. There's just like a lot of MacGuffins in this film. A MacGuffin is where there's just like an object to chase, um, like gold or a treasure map or like that sort of thing. And so there's just like it kind of moves from one MacGuffin to another in this film a lot. So that's why I like it. It doesn't have stakes as much as it has goals. And that's the difference I feel between like Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan is that um, Jonathan lets us know what it means to the people when these events are happening, like the stakes, right? And Christopher Nolan just knows how to get the car from one place to another. I'm not saying just, I apologize. He's a fantastic director and fantastic storyteller, so that's there's not a just. I think that he doesn't see the world in this way. He sees goals and how to achieve them, and that's a hard way to approach things in writing, in my opinion, as a writer, because writing means dealing with the messy parts of who people are and how there's like conflicts and stuff. Nothing's real straightforward, and to write that takes a certain knack, um, because you have to like I don't know, you have to take yourself out of the big picture and look at why people do what they do. And I don't think that, because Christopher is so good at pulling big projects together. I don't think he looks at all those small things like that. Um, you know, People be like, "Why you hating?" And it's more like different strokes. Like everyone's got different skills. I think that's so obvious, and that it's cool that we all have different things, right? And then at the same time, oh shit, there's just some things you can't do because you don't have the aptitude for it. And that's not a bad thing or ableist in any kind of way. It's it says that all of us are different and all of us are inherently limited because we're in these limited shapes and forms in space and time. So there's only so much one person can do or know. So I digress. The two of them together, the Nolan brothers are together, is something that I really like envy and really celebrate. Like when the more that I see the two of them are working together, it's more of a project. I'm like, hell yes, like this is gonna be baller. And as you see, Tenet has lasted as one of Christopher Nolan's like equally good films. And so that's, like I'm still like hell yes about Christopher Nolan, but I know that you get the extra hell yes when the bros team up. Um, it'll be really funny. They reveal in the future that basically like the Prestige is the Christopher and Jonathan Nolan. Like they're never really like seen in the same place at the same time, right? And it's like really just him. Like he's in the woods like going feral, and he calls that person, like Jonathan Nolan. But Christopher Nolan is like the alter ego. It's more like a Andy Kaufman and you know, wow, I can't believe I've forgotten the lounge singer's name. I'm gonna put it on screen, guys. I apologize.
Down. Well, her search ended when she discovered our next guest. To Miss Piggy, he represents big-time Las Vegas-style entertainment. She spared no expense in having him and his backup group whisked out here by bus in time for tonight's performance. Miss Piggy is proud to present a man who needs an introduction. Mr.
Tony Clifton.
Tony Clifton.
The songs and all the special things. I sing the songs that make the young girls cry. I am music and I sing the song. Because you gotta make your own kind of music. Sing your own kind of song. Make your own kind of music. Even if nobody else sings along. Sing along. Sing a song. Sing it loud. Sing it strong.
I have really no excuse for not being able to remember it. Tony Clifton. There you go. It's Tony Clifton. So I'm really hoping that's the case, that Jonathan and Christopher are Andy Kaufman and Tony Clifton. But he just like, his wife's like, no, Chris, I don't know you at that time. You go be Jonathan somewhere else. Um, I'm just playing. There's probably pictures of Jonathan everywhere. Don't take my headcanon as fact. Anyway, this guy's part of this like highly trained military operation. This black guy in the movie. I don't remember his name because they say it a couple of times and it just doesn't kind of mean anything. Because yeah, it's just one of those things. Like this is the reason that you should give people stakes. Because once they have stakes, you're like, who's that guy and why do I care about him? And so for this, when you don't, it's like, okay, I'm glad he at least made it like the black agent, and then Robert Pattinson, who's also very like recognizable, and like you don't have to know too much about that. You can just accept that he exists, right? So I mean, Chris doesn't know how to do this. I don't think, or I think he would have. He would have done it. So he uses like the casting to kind of like fill in for him. Shoot. Um, how do we want to do this, kids? So the unfortunate thing about this operation is that while it's ongoing, they do get their objective guy out, and the target, like, I don't know, nuclear weapon, which is just like this, like, it looks like maybe it's part of a car or something, like a head gasket. And that was like super masculine of me to say. I have no idea about cars. I'm just taking a wild guess on what I think a head gasket might look like. So how do you like them apples? Uh, where was I? And then our hero gets captured, like right at the beginning, and he's doing something that we see, which is really cool. No one likes to do this. Is he'll do shots around trains, and trains are really fun, like in a train yard or whatever, because they're like running, and creating this motion in the shot, so it's not stagnant. Um, and so to have him, there's like this guy is like interrogating our hero, like straight off the bat, like a Russian guy is just like beating the crap out of him. And he says, like the torture is gonna end when his timer hits 7, and then he changes it back. He's just like kicking the crap out of our hero. So it's a pretty like epic opening, you know what I mean? Like it looks like he's gonna escape, and then holy crap, this, right? Um, so uh, you find out that the CIA has, that he's actually worked for the CIA, and they have these silver tablets, and they call out that if you take these tablets, you'll die. And so our man gets to like he like swallow his fellow agent who's like toppled over, and he's like dying, and having the crap beaten out of him as well. He like offers um, his like silver pill to our hero, and our hero takes it, right? And then it turns out, spoilers, here's the twist, is that that pill didn't kill him. It actually put him into like a coma, an induced coma, and they're now smuggling him out of the country. Um, so there is a moment, excuse me, there is a moment where they're smuggling him out on a boat, and a very recognizable actor who I will look up and share with you shares to our hero that all he has for him now that he's dead officially is this mission, and he says, "I only have for you this word and this gesture, which is Tenet." And it's this idea, it's his fingers interlaced, like things running backwards and forwards, because the word Tenet is a palindrome, and his fingers interlaced um, are the backwards and forwards. Now these are really significant, and I think this is the brilliant part of this movie. And then also this is where the flaw lies too. So let's keep diving into it because I want to get it all in as one setting. That's what he gets. And so basically he says, like he's being voluntold he is going to he's now on this different mission, which is about protecting the world from this war that is happening backwards and forwards through time. And there's things that's the bigger mission, is this like top secret war that's going on. And this is one of the things I think is really, really interesting about this movie, and also in Interstellar, because of the way that we see that the Nolan brothers have about the way that they think about the future, and the way that they think about like how we're living now. And they are not quiet statements. So like in this one, let me spoil this part because we find out closer to the end. But this is something that doesn't impact the rest of the information that's going to be happening here. But as you see, I'm messing with this wall, and it's not wanting to cooperate because obviously I'm not smart enough to do it. So let me say that they're having a war that's backwards and forwards in time, and they're picking up debris from that war. Uh, and what Christopher Nolan thinks about the future is the reason that they want to destroy us, and that's ultimately what the heart of this film is about, is how the future wants to destroy us, the past, because of the situation that we put them into. And it's like how we've used up all the resources, how we've like poisoned our skies, how like that sort of thing. And that's why history wants to, or the future wants to kill us. It's history. So it's really interesting, like a real interesting take, right? Um, and it's interesting, a thought about the future, and then it's also, if you look at the way we'll be looking at the way that Interstellar like views the future, and the way that people are in that take of the future, like combine Jonathan and Christopher, is that Christopher's view is really, it's not completely pessimistic, but it's pessimistic leaning, right? In what he thinks that we're going to think about ourselves, or the humans are going to think about ourselves. And Jonathan's is more like, with the fact that We could be messing things up. We better do something about it. So it's just interesting for that too. Those two flavors, which yes, breaks the head canon, of course, that it is two of them, unless they're like, I don't know, completely split or something. It is actually two personalities living in the same body, like they die at the end or something. I don't know. Anyway, um, one of the things that happens pretty quickly is well, one of the things that happens in the opera house is we need to know about is that there was a round that was seemed to have been fired back into a gun. Um, and so he's 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 sent on this mission to this location, this secret location, where the scientist begins to show him what she is calling inverted weaponry. And inverted weaponry is things that the flow of time on them is inverted, so that instead of dropping them, you make a motion to drop them and it picks them up. Instead of firing them, they come back out of the gun because they will have been fired. Um, it's a very weird concept, and um, I don't know if it wholly holds up to scrutiny, but it is interesting enough to keep the movie going. So that's what I will give you. That's what I will give you with it. I don't know what else to tell you, my friends. Um, and as a person who loves time travel, oh, we haven't even ever talked about that. I love time travel movies. So and movies that mess with time. That's one of the reasons why I love Memento. Is the idea that the way that time can be perceived differently, because it converges the two things that I really like to think about is how the mind perceives the world, what perception is, and then the concepts of time and what that means for us. And so, the way that he does that. And then this one specifically actually is a time travel movie, in a very, very interesting way. Like, I have never seen, as far as I know, I've never seen a time travel movie that is like this one. Guys, comment below if you think of something similar. I can think of kind of like Primer is kind of like that, but it acts in a much, like, bigger way. Um, because you have to have control of the box, I think is one of the main things in Primer. Um, but, or you have to have set up the box. You know what I'm talking about, that silver thing that they get in and out of. Anyway, immaterial to this movie. Maybe we'll review it at some point. Although it probably has been reviewed to death because it's a fascinating movie. It came out at a time when people were commenting on movies a lot. So um, anyway, neither here nor there. Um, so he gets the directions to it. He finds out he needs to get some information from an arms dealer who knows more about it, like where these bullets came from. The woman who is showing our hero these inverted weaponry points out ideas of like what would happen if you inverted a nuke, for instance. And so just interesting ideas of like what is energy, how does time work. Um, so our man calls a guy in Dubai, I believe is where they are. And this is one of the things you have to say about this movie. And this is one of the reasons why it has to go into this middle bracket here, as far as like where I think that they're like good, really great Nolan films, really great middling Nolan films, is because of how big the freaking budget is for it. Like you can just tell. I mean, I feel like Nolan, like he gets this little twinkle in his eye, right, when he starts to work on a project. And I think Emma is like questioning him, like, what do you think this film's gonna cost? And then Nolan sits back with a little smile on his face. I don't know anything about these guys. This is just how it works in my head. But he sits back with this little smile on his face, and he starts to think about how much he could possibly spend on it. He's like, now if I want to literally flip a truck, he starts to think about all the schematics of what that would take to do that. He's like, if I want to, crash a plane like he's about to do in Tenet here, how much would that cost? And so he starts to think about like, what he couldn't do and what it could cost. versus what he might be able to get away with doing. And I think that makes one of the things that makes for really great Nolan films is that he has a financial backer who clearly believes in him and clearly wants to see his movies as much as we do. So and is making some excellent choices because while there's some little flaws like in this movie, there's one major-ish flaw, although it doesn't destroy the movie at all. But and there's some other things like I was saying some of the other movies. There's little things that I'm like but overall like the two of them working together over the years have really made some like really wonderful films, and so like that's why I think that he does sit back and teasingly to his wife, he wants to see how much he can audaciously get away with for spending on a movie, because when he does that is when his fans go fucking crazy for it, right? So, things like you didn't need hallway spinning in Inception. You don't need that shot. Absolutely. Is it awesome? And is it one of those things that like if someone's like, "Hey, you want to watch Inception?" I'm like, it's gonna be fucking cool. It's JGL, putting down a fight in the spinning hallway because like yeah, that's always an awesome shot. Just like Bullet Time will never stop being awesome for Keanu Reeves. You know what I mean? And Carrie-Anne Moss, like those from The Matrix. Like those are just things that are gonna be cool to watch because they're cinematic masterpiece of moments. Those words kind of collided in my mouth at the same time. But like it's a moment that is a masterpiece. So just fantastic. You'll want to watch it. This has some really fantastic moments in it too for like that kind of concept. There is a zip line. So Patterson and our man break into this armed dealer's house. They're like threatening him. They're about to kill him, blow his brains out. They're trying to get information about this nuclear weapon that's out there somewhere, right? And then the wife pipes up and turns out that she's actually the one who is in charge of the operation, not the husband. The husband's more of like a servant. So interesting, right? Good on Nolan. He does some interesting things in this movie, and one of the things I do love about it is an international movie. So he does cast people from different countries, different accents, different skin tones. Like I said about the black lead, fantastic choice. Especially the actor is fantastic, not just that he's black, because he does a great job. But then also, when he was writing the movie or when he got in the casting process, and he was like, it should be black. The main character should be black. Yeah, fantastic choice. This is the same way that the weapons dealer should be an Indian woman. I think is the choice that was made. Maybe I'm getting the country wrong. Those things don't mean so much to me, which is why I'm kind of like, eh. But anyway, so yeah, like just a fantastic choice to like mix it up like that. Even Kenneth Branagh's role, spoilers in this movie, which he plays this very like threatening like Russian guy. And it is another fantastic choice. Like he could have, obviously cast a Russian, but to have Bernard show up in this movie as this like narcissistic, sociopathic man is just it gives the character something more, right? Like it's cool that he's Russian, and a less skilled actor could have just played the Russian character, and it would have been fine. But Bernard gives like a nuanced performance where his character believes something and is something. So I think in a lot of ways, casting Kenneth Branagh like kind of carried the what was missing as far as like emotional stakes, as I've been talking about in this movie. So take that for what you will. Anyway, there's here's one of the big things about this movie, and I really hate to like shit on this, but this is the thread that we're going to kind of follow through this movie. And I say this that I was really, really excited to see this movie in 2020. And I went back into this movie thinking that maybe I had just misjudged it because I was at a weird place in my life. And maybe, because I was interpreting a lot of things differently at that time. That maybe I wasn't quite, seeing it for what it was. And so I was looking forward to seeing it again. And then the same thing happened. I was just like, So there's a storyline with this woman who's Kenneth Branagh's wife, who's being blackmailed by him because she appraised this fake that her lover had made, but she didn't know it, and so she fell for it, and then her husband bought it, and then because she had appraised it, he's using it as blackmail against her. And so initially, our character goes to the wife to like blackmail her with the information that he knows about it being a fake, and then she turns the script on him and lets him know that her husband has already beaten her to it. And then it's just there's no escaping, and so he's holding her children ransom, or her son ransom. Like he's like, yeah, you can leave me, but you're never gonna see your kid again. And so she's now like, she's being abused, and she's being, he's a narcissist. And guys, basically, if you're getting this sort of thing in your relationship, get out as soon as you can. Be careful and move quietly, but get out because you're dealing with someone who is trying to hurt you, and won't stop until you are dead. I'm sorry to say, that's where it goes. They will do it. They will either kill you emotionally, or spiritually, or physically. Um, so just just be aware. The way that they're depicting a sociopath, psychopath, Kenneth Branagh's, and the relationship is spot on. I want to believe that this is Nolan knowing somebody who is in this relationship and like calling it out, and that it's not like what is going on actually in his brain in relationship, um, because I don't want to believe that this director that I love is actually like that. Perhaps he is, but yeah, no, it's a pretty good portrayal both from Christopher Nolan in the writing and um, from Kenneth Branagh as the character. But the thing is, and this is the only thing that I'm saying, is that it's just not an interesting story to me. Like, it's a story that should be told. You know what I mean? Like the empowerment of a woman in a spy movie is maybe a story that should be told. Um, but I don't think it's a story that this movie. First of all, I don't think this is so. I don't think Christopher Nolan's capable of telling that story, and I'll get to that in one second. But the movie that it is, th- it's like it's not the first of all, it's not the movie that it presents itself to be because it's an action movie with with spy undertones, that is about emotional abuse and the freedom of a woman, which is was cool. But this is the thing why it doesn't work. Christopher Nolan is not really good at handling women because he doesn't. He treats them like props. You recognize, like in Inception, like the Ariadne character only exists so that stuff can be explained to her. There was another movie where the the same thing. Oppenheimer's wife is often used. Emily Blunt is characters used just to explain things or to like be a nag basically, to Oppenheimer. Um, so Emily handles it well, but she doesn't get a lot to work with. Is where I stand with that. And this is the same thing with this. Is like, if the movie was about the woman getting empowered, then she wouldn't need to be saved so much. And that's the thing is that the guy becomes her silent guardian, spoilers in this movie, and is always looking out for her through time, because she's this, scared little girl who can't save herself. So it's not really about empowering women. So, like that's why the plot line, it doesn't seem to matter. She's like passed around, she's battered, she's saved, she's a prop in a lot of ways. And so it's just kind of, you know, um, I I want it to be better. And he doesn't allow characters. He doesn't play. Uh, that's like just like I was saying from the beginning with Christopher Nolan. Is like he doesn't do the thing that I really enjoy, and that the caloric intake of story. Um, so so that all happens, and then basically it just becomes more and more of her doing it, um, doing things and things happening. There is some really cool scenes though, which is why I'd say don't sleep on this movie because some really fantastic action scenes. Because the main concept in this movie, and so we're gonna push past the plot trouble until the end of this review, but uh, the main plot of this movie is that there are people who are going into this machine that runs them backwards through time. And if they can get to a pre-created machine that they can do the inverse again, then they've gone back in time and now they're running forward in time again. And so that's kind of what started the war. That's what's continuing the war. So one of the main events that happens in this movie is, like I said, they crash a plane into an airport. Now, it seems like, that's standard, but when, of course, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, and like, he comes up with such ridiculous things. That's, again, why, even when he doesn't get his characters right or his stories right, like, I'll watch a Christopher Nolan movie because you're going to see something you haven't seen. And in this case, what you see is this massive thing happen where gold bars drop out the back of an airplane and then it goes and smashes into the side of a building so that the guys can get to this art. Basically, they're trying to steal the picture back for the woman, and then also they want to try to get the nuclear piece or something. Basically, there's two MacGuffins, and they want to get them. But what happens is they run into a person who's running backwards through time, and so there's a choreographed fight where there's a person moving backwards, and it's so mind-boggling to watch this footage. I'm not even gonna bother to cut it in because it's definitely gonna get copyright stricken. But check it out. Like, just go to the places you can check out some of the clips of the choreographed scenes. Because what is happening is one person is fighting forward and the other person is fighting in reverse. Um, but as you can understand within the context of a scene is incredibly difficult. Um, and so, because that's not how time works, and it's not CG, it's all practical, as Christopher Nolan loves. Um, so, let me pause real quick on that to be like, hey, guys, we got, I think we got all the pieces out. All right. Uh-oh, missing the big cloud. Um, and this is one of them. And we get two takes of this because we just see it from the other point of view later on, where, damn it, it got masked out, the big cloud shadow. Where one of the characters goes back to this event and lives through it again. Hint, it's our hero. And so what you don't know when you first see it is that the dude is actually fighting himself. Um, and so because one guy's in a mask, and he's fighting himself. So just amazing. Um, to think about, and then it does loop around again, where they do have to go, but for a different reason. Um, the end of the fight, the first time you see it ends with a guy being sucked out of a jet as a jet intake, um, takes off like the plane, like something like that. I don't know. You know how the back engines of a plane it sucks to pull. Um, anyway, so he gets sucked out because of that. But what you see is actually in when it goes and revisits it, he's pushed into the building because for him he's running in reverse and physics are reversed because of that. Um, so where do you see that but a Christopher Nolan film, right? Like there's some characters who are running backwards in time, like it's Memento the action movie, and it's happening simultaneously. So it is incredibly clever, and that's again why it's in the middle bracket and not dropped down the lowest because there's just things about this movie that are fantastic for that. Um, as things go, Kenneth Branagh does have some really great lines. He says to his wife when she threatens to kill him the first time, he says, "You don't negotiate with a tiger." He says, "You admire a tiger until it turns on you." He says that he knows that his wife is not going to pull the trigger on him because anger scars over into despair. He says, I look into your eyes and I don't see anger, I see despair. And he snatches the gun from her. Um, man, just man. Um, he's real scary. He's definitely real scary. He's a guy you wouldn't want to mess with. He's an arms dealer and he's playing it to the hilt. It is he definitely is playing the guy that you don't want to mess with. Let me do this. I'm gonna link all these together. So there's a thing right like that, and then I'm going to do the riskiest move in all of moves and flatten all of this. You guys ready? I'm just gonna go from here down. Yeah. Um, risky, right? But that was kind of the goal. Yep. And then we're gonna put these guys together like this. Loving it. Um, cool. And then we're going to let's lay down the whole set. Yeah, I'm talking to myself right now because just kind of taking this next step. I'm also kind of flipping out my brain because I knew that we're coming up to the end here, and I was like, I didn't plan for the next step, so um, that's all right. So thinking too many thoughts at the same time. Um, There's a pretty big action scene that happens next in the film, which is really fun. They get a bunch of really big trucks and they box in this security truck that's apparently making this nuclear materials delivery. And what it turns out to be is not nuclear materials at all, but the same weird type of device that they found. Um, did I already do this? That he had found in the first mission that he got killed at the end of, quote unquote killed. Um, so for him, all right, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna go all the way back as much as we can, all the way back. Um, So yeah, so he finds this material there. It's the same material. He's confused, but there's the cops that start harassing them as they backed in. This is a really great scene. If you don't watch it for any other reason, you should watch it for this scene because this car chase scene is fantastic. It's really big. First of all, there's four trucks. He uses a lot of truck. He climbs across the back of it. He drills into the back of the security truck as they're screaming down the road. He climbs back out, gets into a car, and then gets into a car chase with the dudes. But there's something weird that's happening, and that's that this car is driving backwards down the road, down the highway towards them, and Kenneth Branagh's in it wearing this like breath mask, like an oxygen tank, right? And so it's so bizarre, right? They just can't figure out like what it is that's going on, and so like they flip this case around, and there's this weird physics going on, and then there's this car that's flipping like out of nowhere. Um, Everything about this scene is just so big. The stunts are incredible. It definitely looks practical. If it's not practical, it's really incredible CG. But I'm pretty sure with Nolan this is practical because he's just baller like that. Um, there's then what happens next is this one is very pivotal scene where it's happening in two different directions at the same time. And it's really the heart of the weirdness of the time flow of this movie, is the way that this scene plays out. Like this man says that he's gonna shoot her again before she's been shot, um, and like, and he has information before it's been given. It's cleverly written. I will give Nolan for this. This scene is cleverly written. And our hero is, he's trying to negotiate with this man through time. They keep entering these doors and running at different places. They eventually switch places in time, where one's now running forward and the other one's running backwards. And so he sees the scene from the other side. Um, and so, like, and we see Bernal come in. So this idea of like seeing time flow from two directions, he actually accomplishes the concept of memento in an action spy thriller. So for that, I would say Christopher has done a very, very good job. It's very much him, like a very like it's his type of concept. Um, let's keep going because we'll get to this. Patterson then comes in. We find out that he's actually part of this larger operation that's going on. And Patterson introduces this idea that there's actually a time pincer movement going on, where there's two battalions, or like this guy basically, he's the reason that he knew what was happening at the beginning of the car chase scene is because he had knowledge that had come from the future, because he had already, like, one of his team members had already experienced and come back to tell him. Um, so, um, yeah, it's just like it's really super interesting, like this concept of like this battle that's going on from the past into the future, and like how you can deal with things before the cause, and that sort of thing. And so we just witnessed that with him with the interrogation, with the woman getting shot, and then we find out that she's been shot with this inverted bullet, and so they have to make this like another MacGuffin-y type of journey to let her get healed in time. We do find out, like, after the sequence, that the car that was flipping at the end of the car chase scene is actually him, because he was trying to handle a car for the first time and really couldn't do it. Um, and it's really interesting, like that time bending. And then basically at that point that they have to heal up the woman, they go back to the plane accident. We get to see the fight from the other side and all the stuff that was going on there. Now we get to see the flip of that fight, which is really, really fun also. You have to give it to Nolan, man. You're not going to see an action adventure movie like this. Um, what we find out is that Kenneth Branagh is actually his character. Um, in the future, they found a way to invert all of time so that the whole world collapses or something like that. That's what this technology is. So it's worse than an atomic bomb. It's actually, destroys the physics of time space itself. And they've given the trigger to Kenneth Branagh, um, and he's the one who's like gathered the pieces together to make it happen for the people in the future. And he wants to do it because I want to say reasons, but oh yeah, he's like dying of cancer or something. And so he's just been like messing around with people. Um, well, guys, here we go. We're gonna start working on the gravity well. Um, and this one, to me, I'm not sure how we're gonna do it. These ones are both real tricky. Look at here too. Like, I'm gonna have to take him off this backdrop. Hopefully, Jack uh, has a backdrop all by itself, but I'm not. Ooh, this is the. I'm pretty sure that he only. Yep. Look, you can see it. Look right here. He only colors it. I love Jack because he is the type of artist who is not going to do more work than he has to. Also, in situations like these, I'm like, you bastard. I think what I'm going to have to do is replace all the stars in the background with stars from the original panel. So hopefully I can get that in here. Um, So because Kenneth Branagh, he turns out he has pancreatic cancer, and he's gonna be dying anyway, and so he decides that, he's gonna use the appropriate moment to end the world. He picks a moment, interestingly enough, that they kind of hone in on. They hinted at in a previous conversation, and then they circle back around to it. Um, and that is, oh no, yeah, and that is this trip that they had where the wife tried to like get his wife back, or get her custody of her child back. Um, yeah, I really decimated this. So they go back to that time. She infiltrates it. She gets revenge on him, and it turns out that she's the woman that she saw jumping off the ship, who was totally free. Um, that storyline's not great. It's not fun. Um, Meanwhile, there's a fight going on where they're trying to like unpower the bomb that will reverse time, um, which is an interesting fight sequence, as far as a military operation goes. And this is the one definitely where I was like, it feels like in some ways um, that he tries to figure out how much money he could spend. Um, because of that. Like, you don't have to film a scene in reverse and a scene forward of two different battalions operating at the same time. But he decided that he wanted to, so you gotta love that. Love that for you, for all of us. Um, so yeah, so that is happening, and then at the end of the movie, and this is the spoilers. What you find out is that Robert Pattinson has um, he's known about the operation for a lot longer than we have known. They get in this situation at the end where they're trying to like get through this unbreakable lock that suddenly gets broken open, and somebody has like helped them out. But and what you watch in the battle is that actually Robert Pattinson's character is um, he misses the out to like go reverse, where he's gonna reverse in time and then meet at the initial um, meeting again for debriefing, and instead goes for another loop, and you find out that he's been going back and forth through time like a bunch of times to make sure that this one operation goes as planned. Um, and it's been going on for a really long time. And what's actually happened is that our hero is meeting Robert at the end of his life because he sacrifices himself to accomplish this mission during the mission. And he already knew that he was going to do that, and he's been working his way towards that anyway. And that our hero is actually the guy who set up the program that he's been recruited into, and he's the one who originally recruited Robert Pattinson. Cool idea, kind of tacked in at the end, final scene. Um, so that's um, actually my beef with it. Is that we learn about that right at the end. Um, so maybe that's not that big of a deal, but what I think is happening with this is that um, we we Nolan missed actually the superior story that we could have had. Um, so hear me out on this one. Um, the movie is it's fine. It's real interesting. It's action. It plays with time and the sorts of ideas of like backward and forward. But I think it misses the story that we want to see, which is Patterson's story. Um, because I think it's more interesting. Well, Nolan gives us like the more flashy story, the spy story. Like Patterson's story is much more interesting. Um, and just like I said earlier, the abusive man who has cancer is just ready to invert time is like tedious, and his wife, in my opinion, the actress and the character content that she's given is just not that interesting of a storyline. Um, anyway, so it kind of like loses, its humanity and its bigness. But here's the idea that I want to pitch instead. That is Pattinson's movie. All right, so it's called Time Pincer, right? Um, think about how more powerful it is that the guy who sacrifices himself, like how more powerful his sacrifice is when we follow his story from beginning to end, right? He's recruited by a much older agent who's our hero from Tenet, but he's much older, right? Like, he's got the gray in the beard and everything. Um, and this man foreshadows this long relationship that they're going to have together. So what we see is the thing instead of where we get it at the end of the movie, we get it at the beginning of the movie. Is this character like hinting that they have this basically like time traveler's wife relationship? Not to be real weird and creepy about that, because it's not there's no sexual relationship. They don't get married or anything, but they just have this long relationship together. Um, and so and we see them running like the more complex missions, like the war missions and stuff like that, where they're trying to pull out this pincher maneuver um, early on in the movie. So we get this like this very like there's a war going on feeling. So it has more of like the opening of Terminator, like the action's already going. And so the more that the movie goes on, the more it becomes more of like a spy thriller, where he's basically covering for his mentor while mentoring his mentor, who he's recruiting into who's recruiting him into the project, right? Um, so I think the adventure is would be more fun if we get to see it from that character's point of view. So we as the audience are clued into what all these things are happening. Um, and then we see our smart hero from our tenant, the one who's in tenant now, from the beginning, just digress into this confused man who questions Pattison about the mission, like lunges at him, and like doesn't know if he can trust him or not. And we don't, then we understand why his sacrifice comes. It's because they've worked so hard for it. Um, then he can tell him at the end. He says it's the beginning of a good friendship, and I think that that would give it way more kick to the point um, that Nolan was trying to create. So for a movie that I didn't want to talk too much about, I did talk quite a bit for that. Let me point out that this is a Cox and Space podcast. It's behind the scenes podcast. We're doing Flicking with Skip on a Secret Sundays episode. If you like what you're seeing and what you're hearing, you can go to coxinspace.com. That's COX in space.com. And you can join the crew. You can be a part of what's going on. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can click the big join the crew button, and that'll take you to our Patreon, get you to help us out by supporting it so that we can work on this. We can all be working on this full time and get it out to you sooner. There is also the option of going onto the Discord, and you can become a part of the show by just coming onto the show and hanging out with us, chatting while we have guests on, while we do other things, while we talk about movies. So throw your 2 cents in that way if you like to. So that is an option. There is also, you can connect on the Facebook, and if that's more in your jam there, go onto our Facebook, talk about the things that you would like to talk about, and Aaron Cosby will talk to you and get you in touch with us. Those are the ways you can check it out. Also, we have all the contact information up there, the development of the show as it's coming along. The new animatics that are going to be coming out will be up there as well, as long as with all the show dates, who our guests are going to be, and all that sort of stuff. So check that out, coxinspace.com. You can always get all your information in there. You can also check out me if you're interested in that, the things that happen behind the scenes at the wigwags.us, like why it's happening and where it's happening, on wigwags.us. That's the address. I meant to say wigwags earlier, so without the US, but here we are with the words coming out my mouth. Anyway, we're gonna get back to the show and back to the Nolan reviews. I'm glad to hear from you in any of the ways that you want to reach out. So please reach out, and we will talk to you soon. What I'm going to do to kind of cover some time here, because we do need to get to all 4 movies, at least that's the plan, because honestly I'm supposed to be done in a half an hour, but it doesn't look like that is going to happen. we're going to be covering both the Batman movies, kind of as one. Um, yeah, honestly, here's my rankings for them. So The Dark Knight comes out in 2008, 9.1, and then Batman Begins comes out slightly before that, 2005, and it's an 8.2 rating. Now, even though that's the case, that I know why 100, like there's so many people who love The Dark Knight. Why it has that 9.1? That's Christopher Nolan's highest rated film. It actually rates second rate on, in my opinion, to Batman Begins, for one specific reason, and it's nothing that they can do anything about. But there's just so much promise in this film. For instance, Joker at the end says, "We could do this forever. I won't kill you, you won't kill me. We kind of need each other, right?" And the promise at the end is never quite paid off, uh, because of Heath Ledger's death, of course, which sucks. That's not something that they can do anything about. Now, so there, right, there's that. And so I think that's the case. Also, I feel like this movie rests on its laurels a little bit, The Dark Knight, because it's like, we already impressed you so much with Batman Begins. Now we're just going to continue on impressing you. And so there is a little bit of like, it feels a little bit like, again, like they rest on their laurels, like it's a little like lazy in some of the way that it goes together. I feel like Batman Begins, as far as the story goes, like really holds together really well. Like everyone's motivations really make sense. I feel like in The Dark Knight, Joker's motivations make sense for Joker. He's just a dog chasing cars. He wouldn't know what to do with one if he caught one. Um, right? But like ultimately, there's some motivations like the confusion of like Harvey Dent taking Batman's identity for him, and then Batman taking Harvey Dent's identity for him. Like, what does it mean? You know? Um, it kind of it just feels like they just do a status shift like kind of arbitrarily to change things up without like really understanding the ramifications of those choices. Now, Harvey does get himself captured, and so that is a plot point for sure. But I mean, I don't know how exactly to say it. Like, Batman goes off at the end of the movie, like running from them, like chase me, so you don't look at Harvey Dent. But basically, it says that like it leaves us with the good guys are corrupting themselves, um, for the sake of good. And that's such a I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's really the point that we want to be making. Um, you know? Um, so that's where I like for me like when you don't look real close at this film, it seems like it's fun and it's cool. It has no problems with it, but like definitely the if you examine the film itself, I think that you'll see that um, maybe too many cooks kind of thing. They kept adding to it, and adding to it until it suddenly didn't make sense anymore. Um, I remember my initial reaction to it was when I first saw it in the theaters, because I do remember being fairly excited about it. I mean, it was going to be Heath Ledger. His Batman, his Joker performance was, just even before the film came out, was just being like celebrated, and people were super excited about it. Early internet at that time, so we started get to see some early pictures, which is something that hadn't happened, with other films as much. Um, so it's a good time for that. But yeah, so Heath Ledger, we're all very excited for this film. But then, I remember my initial reaction was that it just seems like there was too much going on, and it just goes on for too long. Um, so Because they have both the fall of Harvey Dent, and then Joker's elaborate plans. Um, the bank heists, and the having them blow each other up in the bay, while he's like having doctors in an abandoned building dressed as hostages dressed as clowns. Like, it's pretty convoluted. There are, of course, some great performances. Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight is fantastic. Christian Bale's performance in both of these movies is amazing. Um, as Batman, he's good. I wish in all the films he didn't play Patrick Bateman as Bruce Wayne, because I think it's a weird like thing to say about Bruce Wayne. Um, but he's doing an American accent already. He's playing a character that's very similar. He may have even been asked specifically to do a Bateman sort of thing. Um, so I don't know. Who am I to say about all that? I wasn't there for the process making up or anything like that. No one really asked my opinion, and those are just the thoughts that I've had about them. I like the idea in Batman Begins of a man who is broken, and that's what brings him to it. Um, that's it, it's cool. It's actually this whole movie, like watching these two movies back to back, gave me an appreciation for the Batman series. Just as a concept, is because the way that Christopher Nolan presents it and the way that Christian Bale is in these films just really does give you a Batman to believe in. I've always kind of mocked him for being his superpower is money. But one of the things that you see in this movie that, in Batman Begins is he's trained as a ninja. So he's trained in the style of art, sorry, of grace. He's trained in the art of grace and strength. For that, I think that is like it really like proves that Batman is something special. Um, I think that the Batman stands on Batman Begins and Dark Knight quite a bit. I think that I forget who the director is. I'll pop him up so you can see him. But I think that he takes a lot of notes from Christopher Nolan and then executes it even greater. I think I do love the Batman. That's one that really like made me be like, okay, cool. Like, like Batman is you can do good things with Batman. Robert Pattinson is in that. Um, and I just this when I watch these as as an adult through an adult eyes, having that like look at them again, I was like, okay, cool. I actually see why these are cool movies. And then it does, in my opinion, fall off with the whole idea that like Batman needs to become a villain that they deserve or something like that as much as the hero. It can be so he doesn't get hurt, because he's just a symbol, but like, never is carried on into the third movie. Again, because Heath Ledger isn't there. Uh, what we've talked about that in the previous episode, so check that out if you want to. I do enjoy Anne Hathaway's performance in that movie. Um, there are some great action sequences. Of course, the hospital being blown up, the abductions and plans, the interrogation of Heath Ledger and Batman together is so fun. Um, and then also in Batman Begins, just some of the stuff they do for training, the train wreck at the end of the movie to kill Ra's al Ghul. Um, to like his choices to he's not going to kill him, he says, but he's not going to save him. One of the reasons actually the second Batman to me gets ranked down lower than the first Batman is because it doesn't have Katie Holmes in it. And I know that that's not a minor thing. Here's the thing about Maggie Gyllenhaal is that she is a fantastic actress. She can deliver the words that have meaning, So it's not just that she's telling like she's talking the script. And Katie Holmes doesn't have that quite as much. She is very good at delivering a script, but she's in a movie called Mrs. Sunblossoms or something. That's not the name of the movie, but I'll pop it up for you. Um, that is about her being like this sweet innocent woman who's driven to kill, and then she like realizes the power in it. And she on the face is that character, and it's a really interesting movie. But the thing that she lacks is she doesn't have acting chops to really go there. Um, I love Katie Holmes, but and this is what I'm saying with this movie is that uh, the second one shouldn't have had her in it because it makes sense that she's the cutie Katie Holmes is the one that Batman and Harvey Dent would be fighting over. Maggie Gyllenhaal is a very fantastic actress, but she's not the cutie that you need for that role. So to me, like I love Maggie. She's gonna do some really great work. She's like in her era right now to do some really great work, and so I'm excited to see what she's about to do. But um, she's not the cutie Katie Holmes is in the 2000s, early 2000s. Um, so, and that's one of the reasons that is ranked up. Anyway, they fight over her in the movie. We find out that she is like this conflict that she can't be with Bruce Wayne as long as he's Batman. I know that they were hoping to resolve that, and then they just kill her off in two. That is pretty dramatic. It's the thing that breaks Batman. In that he's moping about in three, and we talked about three. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that's weak. Um, so Cillian Murphy shows up as a scarecrow. There is some really great things about him as the scarecrow. His whole like working at Arkham Asylum and he like makes the mob people go crazy with his mask and the whole idea that he makes the whole island hallucinate. Those are some really fun, like real scary things that Nolan makes become real. Yeah. My only note at the end of this movie is yeah, good movie. It's just a really fun ride. Christopher Nolan really did Batman Begins. He did a Batman movie that nailed it. It's what let him get away with the third movie. That's why people won't fault the third movie because they believe in the franchise so much. And he got people on board with Batman. And he got people on board with his franchise. So I'm going to take a quick pause real quick just to show you my favorite character in the movie of Batman, which I'm pretty sure is not going to get censored because I don't think they're going to recognize it, but we'll see, right? So I'm going to do some things that I really should have pulled up beforehand so that it didn't do what we're looking at right now. But here's the thing. This is my guy right here, my favorite guy.
Pressure's moving along the mains, blowing all the pipes. And if that pressure reaches us, the water supply right across the whole city is gonna blow.
Okay, I'm gonna pause right there because I did clip this out because I want you to see this. First of all, okay, so Batman Begins was filmed partially in Chicago. This man is clearly from Chicago. I get the feeling that this man was probably cast because while they are using like city buildings, they probably had like a deal worked out that they have to use like a city worker or something like that because somebody wanted it so bad. Um, and I'm just guessing here, but the lore with Chicago is that you're kind of dealing with the mob, and they're gonna make deals, and make things happen. So this guy might be, one of those like inner city guys that he wanted to get his foot in the door because he heard about this movie and they're pulling some strings. Anyway, I don't know about that, but one of the things I love that this is the movie. I love this character. Basically, he's the pants character, right? Like he's the ordinary dude. So he like narrates the story for those who might be confused. So maybe people who aren't watching the screen or people who are unable to see the screen. And also people who might be having like struggling just at this point in the movie to know what's going on. He was deliberately cut into this portion of the film. Anyway, the reason that we're paused here is because let me back it up just one frame. We see him doing the acting. See, he's acting to the guy. Here you see the intention in his eyes. He's acting to the guy that we've seen in the scene. It's this young guy with short cropped hair, blue eyes. But you see he's acting in the scene, and then we see this. And this is live in the movie. You can check it out for yourself if you want to, the frames. But what happens here is we see that he looks to somebody off camera who's not this character. And look at his face too. He's also checking to see if he's done it correctly. So he delivered his lines, and so he's looking to see if they like call cut or if they call like a retake or whatever. Now, who he might be looking at is probably the director of photography or possibly the cameraman. but although it's not directly at it, somebody who's directly behind him. So he might be looking at Christopher Nolan and possibly, producer Emma. But then also you see this. He does that one look there, and then right here he shifts his gaze and he looks to the other person who again maybe director of photography or producer or something. I just think that's fun in the movie. But let's watch the sequence again.
Pressure's moving along the mains, blowing all the pipes. And if
that
that
guy.
pressure reaches us, the water supply right across the whole city is gonna blow.
I just love it. He's so dramatic. He's just seeing if he did it good right afterwards. And he checks. Did I do it good? Wait, the movie continues.
Evacuate the building. We're right on top of the main hub, and it's gonna blow.
Okay. And then this is after the wreck, of course. The look of relief. I just love it. Like when I watched it, I just laughed out loud. That guy is so funny. And I don't know who he is, but shout out to that guy. He really made the end of that movie great. Um, yeah, not only did I know what the movie was about, but I knew how to feel about it. So I lolled, of course, because like that's the case. Um, there's not much to say about Batman, I guess. They do the classic story, the Batman's beginning, why his parents died, why he has to achieve what he has to achieve. We meet his mentor, we see his training. It's cool. He becomes the hero they deserve. He's got the mask. He reveals at the end. There's a love story of that. There's a bat cave underneath he builds a bat cave under his mansion. His mansion gets burned down. They're rebuilding it. They rebuild it better. He gets some stronger allies. He takes over a company in the first movie. Now he's in charge of that company. They got R&D. Some guy's gonna reveal it. But bad guys and monsters. Heath Ledger. Yeah, they're fun. They're fun rides. Christopher Nolan does a good job. They're middling. There's not a whole much more you can say than that. They are fun rides. He does a really good job of being real big with everything. The action's on point. David S. Goyer is a co-writer on this one. I think Jonathan Nolan is a co-writer on one of these, but I can't remember which one. Anyway, speaking of Jonathan Nolan, we're going to transition to the last movie, and this episode is probably going to run a little bit long for this reason. I really want to talk about this movie a lot. I think it's fantastic. And like I said in the beginning, it's Interstellar. Interstellar it comes out in 2014 and ranks an 8.7. It's right below the top film, everyone's favorite film, the Heath Ledger in the Batman movie. So here's the thing that's cool. So it's a movie that's written by Jonathan Nolan, and you can really tell this is Jonathan Nolan's movie. It considers time and space. It thinks about gravity. It considers life on other planets. It considers the future and how we're dealing with life here. It's about the relationship between a dad and his daughter. And it's about relativity, and colonialization of planets. It's about people who lie. It's about why they lie. It's about the needing to believe in something. And so that's all in this movie. It's the most it handles all of that. And this is what this has been the powerhouse of Christopher Nolan. Is his big vision, his ability to achieve these big concepts, and Jonathan Nolan's big concepts. I really hope that they are, in fact, two people and not one insane, very very disturbed man. This movie starts out very slow, and it starts out with an idea, that there's this. So it takes place in the distant future. It doesn't force feed you that. You kind of like figure it out through context. This man wakes up from a dream, where he's flying this like fighter jet, this high speed, high tech machine. It starts to go down, and his daughter wakes him up. He says the ghost has been messing with the books again. And so you find out that they're kind of that they're farmers, kind of everybody's farmers. They're like raising this crop on Earth. It's like slowly becoming less inhabitable. The future now, they've cut back on all their production on a whole lot of things because they realized how wasteful that was. And so uh, they've begun to live the simpler life because the main thing that we need to produce is food, so we can all live. Um, there is you find out some interesting things like in the movie itself. There's some things like the kids are told that the space race, getting to the moon was actually propaganda, American propaganda to bankrupt the Soviets, and that's that it wasn't actually true, uh, which I mean it's like subtly just like peppered in there. They don't even touch on that. Um, but you find out later, that there is, NASA is still operating and all this sort of thing. And even though they're part of this like simple life, that NASA's been operating covertly because they've got to get off this planet. What they've discovered is that there are a lot of people who that basically Earth is about to die, and because uh, because it's about to die, they've got to figure out either a place to evacuate or they need to figure out a place to set up a colony. And so they call it Plan A and Plan B. Plan A, of course, they say is the idea that they want to. Hmm. The reason I'm pausing on this shot is I feel like there's not a whole lot that I can do with it. I've separated all the pieces out, but it's this shot where they're gonna be talking a lot, so it's probably gonna be more about the beaks or just the heads moving, maybe. Um, so anyway, um, and so you find out all these things about it. There's the portion of the movie in the very beginning, and there's all these older people who are talking about what it's like on Earth at that time, and how everything was sparse, and people were dying, and the dust was terrible. They find out that this dust is a blight that's killing all uh, life on Earth, the humans, the plants, and all of this. Um, and what happens during a dust storm is that the coordinates of the secret location are spelled out in dust, and they figure out that somehow it's been spelled out in binary, I believe, and that is how something's communicating by bending gravity. And this is when the daughter points out that this is who the ghost is. This is what she's been interacting with. So what we find out is Matthew McConaughey, who was our hero, is very much he's science based. He wants to study the world and understand it through its physical properties, and the fact that he's a farmer now in a place that doesn't really believe in science is something that's like just it's bothered him so much. Um, so he gets offered the opportunity to join this mission. The guy who's running the NASA mission is a guy he used to work for, and the way that he found it accidentally has put him in the running for this project that he didn't even know that he was supposed to be on, and it seems like he's been chosen by a force that they've been communicating with that is kind of like from a higher dimension, um, like higher than 3 and 4 dimensions. So there's beings out there that are communicating in such a different way. Um, so one of the things that's cool about this movie too is the way that Jonathan Nolan, like thinks about technology. Um, like for instance, the androids or the robots that are in this are like the most important things that they have characteristics and traits that are human, but not that they appear to be human. They're like these big metal blocks, and they unfold in different ways that are useful. And this is a really cool thought process. As far as I think it's very novel in the way that this idea has come up. And it points out more opportunities. One of the things that the way that they create gravity for themselves is they travel through space spinning. which is something that I've never seen done in sci-fi. Also, like how it would physically have to happen so that they could have that. And so that's a really fascinating concept. Another thing that they do is how he plays with relativity, where it's like from the very beginning, the man Matthew McConaughey has to go to his daughter and tell her that he's like leaving the planet, right? And then he buys her a watch, and this is a really cool. It's just like a classic like example of like how relativity works. He buys her a watch, and he says, "I'm going to be wearing mine. You wear yours." And by the time I get back, we'll know how much time has passed. But when I come back, because I might be even the same age as you at this time, which is really interesting, right? The idea that because they're moving at different rates of speed in time because of gravitational pull, they actually, it changes how fast they're moving through time. They bring that up. The reason I said I'm going to say it, I said it at the end and at the beginning. I'm going to say it again here at the end. The reason this movie ranks so high is because of that concepts of technology and this idea that's it's like percolating in the background of like who these fifth dimensional spirits are and like who the ghost is and how that's like all tied in together. And then the freaking soundtrack in this movie. Um, just that. The way that it like punctuates some of these shots. Like there's this one fantastic shot of they just to point out like how tiny they are. Like their ship, which is massive to them, like this big like space station that's kind of spinning through space, like spins past Jupiter at one point, and it pulls out, and it's just Zimmerman's Hans Zimmer. Sorry, there you go. Zimmer's score, and basically like a still shot of Jupiter, which it's a massive planet that's not moving. There's just a little like maybe the gases are moving on, or the storms are swirling or something. But you see, there's this little like this tiny little speck. And so it's just like, just the soundtrack, just this basically the stagnant shot, and it just like has this overwhelming sense of like I don't know, grandeur, right? Like if you ever wanted to get the absolute bigness of a Nolan film, like Interstellar, hands down, just holds it. Um, and it's shots like that that really do that. Um, there is this idea that's going on in it. So mission A is that they have sent people through this black hole, this wormhole rather, that had just suddenly opened up in space, that opened up onto all these different possible worlds. And so they have not been getting messages. They've been getting messages back, but they can't get any data back but they sent all these explorers to go check out these worlds to see if there's any ones that were habitable. And so this happened before the movie started. And so what McConaughey's mission is for him and Hathaway, this black scientist, and this guy who I detest quite a bit, whose face I'll put up on the screen as an actor. I not my favorite guy, just because he's nothing but eyebrows, and that's all he's got, in my opinion. But anyway, disagree with me below if you want to. Tell me a movie that or a series that he was great in. I will definitely check it out because I am totally fine with people redeeming themselves. Um, but in my opinion, Nolan, these are not facts. That's why I'm saying this. My opinion, Nolan is casting popular people from the time. He was popular at that time for, I believe that it was American Horror Story. So it makes sense that he was cast, um, but I just don't like him. So, anyway, no offense to the dude. I've never met him. I just don't like the way that he acts. Um, so those people are all sent in space to they're there to go get the ones who have habitable worlds and uh, if they can. Um, so it's so fun how this movie starts, right? Like it starts off on a dying planet Earth, and in the far future where we brought it on ourselves, and then it leads to this mission where they leap through a wormhole into the far reaches of space. They take a couple of there's three really viable sources that they've heard of, and so they struggle through the decision of who they're going to see first. One of them's the closest. It looks like the data's the best, and it turns out that one Matt Damon Matt Damon's character lives there, is there. Um, I bet you I can keep those. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Basically like this. We can put it in front maybe. And so when they come across him, uh, oh wait, actually, there's a thing that happens first. Um, is they go to what seems to be the closest world, the most like they've been getting this like uh, thing, but they realize that if they when they go down to this world that's so close to the black hole the wormhole, that it's gonna have a gravitational pull, and so when they go onto this planet, the longer that they stay down there, for every hour, I think it's like 7 years that pass up, on the surface. And so they decide to go down because it seems the most profitable. It turns out that it's got almost a complete water world, at least where they're at. And the woman who was sent down here, who was sending up the signals, she had gotten killed just moments before, and the data had just been looping because of the fact of the time dilation. Um, they leave a dude on board on the ship while they go down for just a minute, basically, to go check out the information. But terrible things happen. Their ship gets like overtaken by the swells of the water. The eyebrow dude gets killed. And so it's this a whole lot of extra time passes by the time they can finally get up out of the water and then take off, because it takes like 45 minutes to get the water out of their ship, right? Um, and so by the time they get back, the black guy that they've left up there, the scientist, has become an old man, because they've been gone for 23 years. Um, and it's so interesting. Like, this is one of those things about this movie, like, you just like, like that. I didn't see that coming as a development, right? They were talking about relativity and how this can happen, but all of a sudden, in the middle of a mission, 23 years have passed, and we've been with the characters this whole time. Um, and I think that that's a really cool twist on it. The second one that happens is when they go to the second planet. They wake up this dude, and it turns out that it's Matt Damon. And when the first time he sees this dude, he sees our hero's face, McConaughey's face, he cries, because he's been isolated, basically marooned on this planet, for this whole long time, and his resources had dwindled. Nobody had come pick him up. He just put himself into hypersleep, and was just gonna basically sleep there, until it was over. I don't know how that worked out, whether he would die in there or what. But that was basically it. Like, he'd given up. And then, there's a couple sketchy things. Like, he doesn't really want to show them the discoveries he's found that shows that the planet is so good. He doesn't want to necessarily show them. Let me just save this as a completed one also. He has a broken machine, like a broken robot, and he doesn't want them to necessarily work on it. Um, and so, like, that's weird. And then they finally do, like, McConaughey, it's like, hey, I gotta get out of here. I, like, gotta get home, right? And then, Damon attacks him. And so, like, it turns out that, like, he's been faking all the data. He's such a big coward, that he can't. He knew that he had a terrible spot to stay, and that they weren't going to come get him if they found out. So he'd been lying about it. So he could get out of there. There is some really crazy. There's a crazy monologue, that he delivers, um, about how, like, the reason that dads survive, are the best survivors, is because when they're about to die, their kids' faces pop into their memories, and that's what, like, drives them to survive. And when he's like, after he's attacked, McConaughey, and he leaves him dying on the surface of this planet, because he chickens out killing him. Um, he asks him, he's like, "Hey, do you see your kids' faces?" Which is just like, It's just fucked up. You know what I mean? Like it's just so twisted. But the delivery, like I have to give it to Matt Damon. Like there's some movies that he's done that like I've seen, especially younger Matt Damon. Like they're weaker. And as he's gotten older, he's gotten more nuance. But again, he can play sometimes just a straight man, and not have a whole lot to do. And so it's just delivering lines. It's kind of like just showing up, right? But this one, he plays a man who's been broken. He's been broken because he's been alone for so long. And his delivery and his brokenness is just so you can feel it, right? It's subtle and at the same time it's pervasive with this performance. We find out that he's rigged his robot to explode as our friend, the black scientist, goes to investigate. It explodes on him, and then he takes off the planet. Our heroes, Hathaway now, and the robot that goes with them, and McConaughey, they Hathaway saves McConaughey on the planet's surface, and then they go after Damon, who is racing up to the ship that's up in space, because the robot tells him that he's rigged it basically, that you can't get in without authorization. Um, and so what will happen is that if Damon tries to get into the ship without the thing, is that the whole airlock's going to just suck him out into space. Um, and so, they're trying to warn him. He's trying to get in. He's frantically trying to, Matt Damon's frantically trying to like get into the ship and take control of it. He's doing everything manually, and they're trying to warn him as much as possible. So it's a scene that's building up that where he finally gets the doors open to the ship, and he thinks he's finally made it. He's about to make this speech about how he's so cool and how he's a survivor and stuff like this. He just sucked out the airlock. Fantastic moment, slow clap. If it weren't for the movies like Oppenheimer next up, after this would be top tier Christopher Nolan. To me, Interstellar is you can't be missed. Which is funny because I ranked this actually as the bottom film. I put this down at the very bottom. I was like, yeah, I think it's low tier. But when I watched it again, I was like, no, it really holds up. It's really like as far as a Nolan movie goes, as far as all the parts and everything like that, it really holds up. Um, so that is fantastic. The thing explodes. The ship that they're trying to get on, and it spins through space, explodes, and so it starts spinning through space. And they realize if that ship gets away, they're not going to get to the one possible habitable planet. And so what they decide to do is chase it down in their ship, line their ship up with the spinning, and dock while it's in motion. This sequence is fucking amazing. And this is why Interstellar is fantastic. Like, just like the idea of what they're trying to pull off, it is really, really good. It's well executed. The idea of like how they got into the situation makes sense, and then how they're gonna pull it up too. McConaughey was known for being the best pilot in NASA, so it makes sense that that's the case. He'd be able to do that too. So that's been justified. Um, the Meanwhile, back on Earth, what you find out is Michael Caine, who's been the leader of NASA, who's Anne Hathaway's dad, is dying, and as he's dying, he makes a deathbed confession to Murphy, who is the Murphy Cooper, who was the daughter of Matthew McConaughey, the one who's been seeing the ghost, who's all grown up now because of the time passage, that he's been lying, that there's no way for him to get the Earth stations off the planet. And so he's just been giving people false hope and sending people off to do these missions where they're going to basically colonize. Anne Hathaway's big thing is that she has like embryos, that she's going to set up a civilization based off from that. And so that's the plan B, but actually he tells Murphy that the plan A will never work, and that it was only ever gonna be plan B. And so all the people who were on the Earth were dying. Now Murphy had never talked to her dad in the whole time, while he was up there, and then suddenly he stopped responding because he went down to this other planet, and so now. She believes that he's dead, but he still has this like hope that he's still alive. Um, Timothy Chalamet plays the son as a younger man, and then Casey Affleck plays the Matthew McConaughey's son as he gets older. And they have this like turmoil where Casey wants to stay and continue cropping just like his dad did, and even though the blight's killing them, he won't give it up. Murphy, knows that if she finds this out, she wants him to get out. She knows that she can figure it out somehow. She returns to the house, but there's this big like thing because Topher Grace comes in as a doctor who says that the dust is going to kill them. This portion of the film really, really sucks, and there's some problems with it for sure. Like this is what keeps this movie out of the top tier altogether, is because Topher Grace comes out of nowhere, and the character the older Murphy, she's this redheaded actress. I'll put her up on the screen. She is not great. She's not a great actress. She says some lines sometimes, like some of the takes where it doesn't sound like she knows what she's saying. Like it sounds like she's just saying words that she's like recorded, and she's just saying it like Uh, she says, "It seems like you've had one hand, no two, tied behind your back," um, which is, I don't, the realization that you had two hands tied behind your back should do something to you, but it doesn't sink in for her at all. Um, and anyway, and Topher Grace, it's hard for me to understand. I think he's a cool guy. I think that people who know him think that he's a cool guy, and that's why he's been cast and stuff like that. But I don't understand why he's ever been able to act because I don't think he can. He also does these really wooden performances of delivery, and that's kind of the bit. Like that's what worked well for him as the Eric character in that '70s show, because of how like stilted that delivery was. But it doesn't work for most other characters at all, and in this one, it doesn't work at all. So I feel like there's actually other scenes that are missing. There's like deleted scenes from Interstellar where they were supposed to be developing the relationship between the daughter and the doctor because he becomes kind of significant. Like she actually kisses him when she's excited at the end. And I think that one of the things that probably Jonathan wanted to do was like how Murphy can't like be in relationships with people because she was abandoned by her father. I kind of think that's what he was going for, and so that kiss is supposed to be significant that now she's like capable of trusting because she now solved the mystery herself, which I think is cool, and I think they had to supplement it with the footage of the old people talking instead because they use that to develop Murphy's character, even though we don't know it until the end, because these two actors who are recognizable are not talented enough to pull off the relationship because it's just the whole time they're interacting is super awkward. Anyway, so those are all of my opinions there. But one of the things that happens is Murphy sets the she gets kicked out of the house because of this interaction. Topher Grace gets kicked out of the house, so she sets her like brother's fields on fire so that she can get into the house. And then once she gets in the house, she tries to figure out it begins to dawn on her that her dad is the ghost, which is foreshadowing to this. It plays into this event here, where Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway realize that they don't have enough fuel to get to the next planet because of all the stuff that they had to do with dealing with the explosion of Matt Damon, or yeah, like what he did with the ship. And so they're gonna skim past the surface of the black hole to allow themselves to shoot forward. And at the same time, they're gonna drop a probe inside the black hole. So that they can get the data they need to basically solve the question of gravity, which is the whole big problem. So it's like how time travel is possible because gravity can work on all the dimensions across all the dimensions at once or something like that. I guess it's an actual thing, but I'm not real smart, guys, so that I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But it's a thing they say a lot in this movie, so I'm going to say it to you also. Um, all those things are happening. So Anne Hathaway gets thrown towards her planet, who actually turns out might be her lover on it. He was one of the explorers. There's a big argument about this at one point. And then McConaughey goes into the black hole. And what we find out when he goes into the black hole is he's captured by the fifth dimensional beings that have been interacting with him for the entire movie. And they create this tesseract, which creates like a three-dimensional space in their five-dimensional space so that he can understand what time looks like to them. And it's something that, I've conceived of before too, but and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. It's this idea of like what I call the rug, and it's like how all these strands of time interact with each other across each other. And it's fractal shaped and it's like knitted together. And basically, all of it hinges on the discovery of this one girl, Murphy Cooper, and she's the daughter of him. And he thought he was special, that he was the one that they were after, that that they needed him for some reason. But it turns out that she's the one who it cracks the code and discovers what it is. But as it turns out, that he's the one who cracks the code from inside the fifth dimensional space he's in when he falls into the black hole, and that's conveyed to him by his robot. He conveys it back to Murphy, and she gets it all via Morse code on the second hand of the watch that he gave her. Um, it's cool how everything like works together like that. It's definitely like it's fun that there are no missing pieces or dropped pieces in this film. It's kind of big. The concepts are real big, but I think that Jonathan and Christopher do a really good job of giving us all the moments. Just like gently giving it to us. They leave us some questions. I think that will bother some people in the very beginning of the movie, but I think if you're patient and you're willing to watch the movie all the way through, just like Memento, it's sort of like, which we'll get to in the next episode, it just kind of, it's fine. Like mysteries are fun, you know what I mean? Like to ask questions and then find satisfying answers to them. And Interstellar does that. It's a mystery about time and space, and what is causality, and how do you measure the amount of love. It does a really good job. Now, the end of this movie is really, really cool. What happens is he's spit out far in the future, and the final scenes of this movie is him meeting Murphy Cooper, who is like the great great grandmother of a whole bunch of people, and she's a well-respected scientist who was able to get humans off of Earth and headed towards the planets that they had set out. And it's really interesting. One of the things that you find out is that he's been gone for so long that he's sort of become meaningless. He's become like this ancient ancestor. So even though Murphy has all these kids and these kids and this family around her as she's dying, he's like, "Hey, I'm here now for you," and she's like, "No, you know what? Like, you shouldn't see your kid die. I have my family here." And so one of the things that he has to accept is that because he decided to leave and not heed his own advice and stay, that came to her in Morse code at one point, that he lost out on some of the greatest things. Now, this is one of the things. It's a prevalent theme you'll see in all of his movies. You remember that when they write their own movies, Jonathan and Christopher Nolan, and they're not doing like a remake, and they're not doing anything like that, right? They're always talking about how we grieve and how we deal with loss. And this is an interesting spin on it because often in the earlier films, what you'll see is they're grieving for the loss of their wife, and, or that they died and they're responsible for that death and they can't get over it. But what you see in this one is how a man gets so caught up in his work, he's grieving for the loss of his daughter, not because she's dead, but because he missed her entire life. And I think that that's an interesting thing to have brought up. That's a very I think it's very real. I think either Christopher or Jonathan have had a thought about this because of their own work, because they have been very involved with this for a really long time. I think in some ways they have had this experience that their daughter all of a sudden became an adult, and they were just a baby just a second ago, and all they were going to do was one more project, and they were going to spend time together and here now. Um, They missed it. So it is interesting how that has now passed on to, being the next thing that they're kind of dealing with. Um, I really do like this movie, and I'm pretty sure that's all the things I wanted to say about it. Here it is. Um, the vision of the future, for one, Jonathan Nolan's vision of the future, these Earth ships that are these satellites are big circles where gravity is always down, but things are above you. Uh, like gravity is always on your feet, but like the Earth station is above you. It's a very interesting shot when he sees where he is. And then the story of Anne Hathaway, where she is a scientist who believes in love and that love is quantifiable and measurable, and something that exists between things all the time. And she ultimately, we never get to even see the man she's in love with. He dies off screen. She has to bury him, and she probably arrived and he was already dead. Is this the summary that we get? And the end of Interstellar, and the final shot is um, his daughter saying to him, as a very ancient, woman at that point, saying to, I'm sorry, the actress, she's probably only like 70, and I'm like, she's ancient, but saying to her father, like, you need to go out and go find her, because she's the one who's setting up the new civilization for us. And so, as far as like, how no, the Nolan brothers love to leave a mystery at the end of the movie, a spinning top, a photograph that's still developing, like these sorts of things. The closing shot is, we understand that Anne Hathaway, she arrived safely at her destination. She set up the things that she was supposed to, and she's there all alone, as the woman who is going to rebuild civilization in the exact same way that Murphy exists. And there's a parallel between these two stories. I feel like, unlike Tenet, this Interstellar does not miss a beat. It's sewed up perfectly. It has all the pieces that are supposed to be there, and it makes sure that it spends time so that we understand it. There's a brief moment that they could have cut out and would not have even noticed if it didn't get wrapped up. But at one point, Anne Hathaway shakes hands with a fifth dimensional creature, and we come back around in time at one point, and it's actually, we see this, McConaughey is shaking her hand. And so it's just this very nice. It's all the pieces are sewed up. The mystery is presented and then given to us. It also has really fantastic supporting cast in this movie, just like John Lithgow, for instance, who's in the movie. I've already mentioned almost everybody else. Um, and Michael Caine, who does show up. His final death scene, where he reveals the truth, is, I've seen a lot of Michael Caine over the years. I mean, I even going back to like Alfie, you know what I mean? Like I do like Michael Caine quite a bit, just because he's always going to give you a fantastic performance, that is believable. And I have never seen him do a death scene. I may be forgetting something, but him dying as an old man in this movie and revealing that the whole thing has been a lie, um, wow, fantastic. Um, Very believable, and it's not overdone. Great casting. I'm glad that Nolan's been using Michael Caine for so many roles. But there you go, guys. We have another show coming up in a few minutes. I might be having people already hanging out with us here for that. But no, that's a Christopher Nolan review. We have been looking at. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Next week we're gonna have episode 3, where we wrap up and we talk about my favorite movies. Oppenheimer being the lowest ranking of those, and the Memento being the highest. So I hope you guys are gonna be tuning back in for that, and we'll see you all soon. All right. I do appreciate it. Check us out at Cox and Space, and y'all take care of yourselves. Bye.